There's three parts to the talk today. So first of all, and it's about ending this year, humanity has arrived at the moment of ultimate choice. And the energy that's exploding and propelling this whole month carries vast energy, revealing expansion and contraction, which moves a lot within us. December is traditionally the month that calls forward familiar or traditional themes and customs. Often the holiday season amplifies both nostalgia and sometimes dysfunctional family patterns. Regardless of your spiritual orientation, there is an upswelling of familiar themes during this month. The holiday season can activate deep-seated patterns that bring forth predictable behaviors with predictable emotions. So the question I would ask, can we stay awake and authentic during the holiday season? Of course. The next question would be, have you? Because that is, the more that we associate with habitual patterns, the more likely we find ourselves compromised. This is a good time to make strong, positive choices. And it's also the moment to connect with Book 1 of the Lost Books of the Essene, which says, comfort those who are asleep, be present for those who are drowsy, and be with those who are awake. This reminds us that the longer we interact with the asleep people, the more drowsy we become. So may your heart be open enough to know how to make the choices. You can absolutely honor your authenticity without trying to change anyone else. Just be who you are and not concerned about others, because your divine presence will bring up the healing that you deserve and need. Nature will offer you rich opportunities to discover gratitude for the expression of love that lies within many of the holiday patterns. Love is always present and often misunderstood when we get together with families, when we get together to do things. If we could really look at that love coming up. Love is present all the time. It's the Christ consciousness that you connect to your family and friends. This is the opportunity for that. And we talk about it here a lot, how we see the Christ in everybody. And when you do that, that presence that you feel inside, notice that it is the gateway to miracles that can happen in your life. Offering comfort and love to all the beings you meet goes a long way towards creating heaven on earth, which is what we're here to do. We need to pay attention to witness ourselves as we ignite and sustain the presence of the Christ consciousness. Our empowered choice in doing that follows our awareness. First of all, we have to be aware. Look at what it is that we're doing. So then we choose to celebrate. We choose to affirm freedom and love and creativity. Beloveds, it is time for your inner peace to expand it, starting this new year and ending this one. Reaffirm your spiritual nature and know that you are loved and supported for the journey that you are on. Number 2, we want to acknowledge powerful ways to heal ourselves and others in 2019. So according to the Company of Heaven, in this last year of 2018, unparalleled shifts took place in the lives of every person on earth. The beings of light have revealed that quite literally we are not the same people that we were when this year began. These shifts have caused dramatic changes involving the full spectrum of our life experiences. And in some instances, we can look back and go, wow, they were quite obvious and quite painful. Some of them were quite joyful, others were more subtle, and they occurred without our awareness of what was going on. But it happened because I kept talking to you about it every time there was energy going on, especially the 3 months of the full moon, March, April, May, and in our summertime that we moved into. In rare instances, these changes have been glorious and life-transforming in the most positive ways, regardless of whether you're aware of them or not on a conscious level. So our Father, Mother, God wants us to realize that in 2018, we all moved forward in our ascension process in extraordinary ways, whether you know it or not. So now here we are in 2019, and we're being given the opportunity to co-create tangible progress in our life this year with much less chaos and trauma and much more peace and joy. Would that be good? That's something that we've all been longing to experience, and now through the unified efforts of heaven and earth, we will. You may remember in previous sharings that I shared with you, the Company of Heaven revealed to us that during the Piscean Age, which was the time of Jesus, the earth was bathed with the gold radiance of God's light, with the divine qualities of peace, grace, healing, devotional worship, and the manifestation of the Christ. These were the frequencies of light that assisted Jesus and Mary Magdalene to accomplish their divine mission of anchoring humanity's return to Christ consciousness and the path of divine love. And that's what we have been on, and even more so in this new time. Even though Jesus was supported by the entire company of heaven, he realized that the masses of humanity would not fully comprehend the full intent of his divine mission. And it's still confusing to a lot of people at this time. Consequently, in Revelations, he said to John the Divine, "In the day of the seventh angel, when he begins to sound, the mystery of God will be fulfilled and time will be no more." He indicated with this that this would occur during the second coming of Christ. Now, we all know, because there's a lot of people that talk about that, they're waiting for Christ, Jesus, to come back again like he did before. But why would he want to do that if he's been here once and gave the message that we haven't all quite taken off? But the second coming of Christ is our own awakening, our own connection back to the Christ consciousness within us. And the seventh angel is referring to the age of Aquarius, which we officially entered 2 years ago. During this 2100-year cycle of Aquarius, the predominant light of God will bathe the earth and life with the violet flame of God's perfection. And that includes the blue flame of God's divine will and power, and the pink flame of Mother God's divine love and reverence for all life. And we get to feel all of that coming together through Source within us. And so the divine qualities that we begin to associate with God's infinite perfection that we have within us is mercy, compassion, forgiveness, liberty, justice, freedom, victory, and glory. Wow, such powerful things and energy that's going through us. In all of creation, this violet flame of God's infinite perfection is the most powerful and effective way to transmute and heal humanity's miscreations. It is precisely because of this perfectly balanced frequency of our Father, Mother God's divine light that Jesus knew we would be able to transmute our liabilities and reverse the adverse effects of our fall from grace during the age of Pisces. He knew that the violet flame of God's infinite perfection would be instrumental in assisting all of us on earth to return back to the Christ consciousness. So please, everything that I'm saying is talking about feeling and connecting to the Christ consciousness within us and all the aspects of that. And once we do that, we reclaim our path of divine love. So therefore, beloveds, we have more opportunity this year to create more peace and joy. And as a gift of light from our Father, Mother God, it's going to be life-changing for us as this occurs. And as a result of that, I'm going to start teaching a class on the violet flame in probably February. So I'll let you know more about it when it gets to that point. Number 3, as I did last Sunday, I want to briefly share about the laws of the universe that I shared with you last year. And so the first one was I started talking about working with the law. So it's very important to remind all of you now that we are a new thought spiritual center, meaning that we connect to the love, the oneness of the Creator and all that is. That means that we are in our form right now, how God created us and how God lives and expresses through us. We don't have rules or dogma to live by, but principles. And that's important because God is the first principle, and everything that comes from that are other principles, such as the laws of the universe. Therefore, new thought in my mind is a way of being, as I've talked about. It's not so much doing, but it's just being connected with Source. And when we open up to that deeper truth, we end up being God. And God works through us in all situations. And we end up creating the life that we're here to create. I am thrilled personally as to what can happen in your life and our lives this year as we deepen our understanding and explore these concepts. So remember, beloveds, what one of those things that law says is nothing is too big or small when you're working with the law. Then secondly, I talked about the law of attraction, which basically states you attract to you people, places, and situations that match the vibration of your energy. So to desire is to expect, and to expect is to achieve. And that brings up a question. How do you make yourself think so that the part of you that wants to win can get over the part of you that's afraid to win? Is that a good question? How about, how do you make yourself think so that you can have what you really want instead of being afraid and having that get in your way. That's what the laws are about, to open ourselves up, to be all that we can be and receive all that we can. We might ask, how do we make ourselves think so that the good we desire can come into our lives? Well, when an individual earnestly desires a thing, we set up a line of force that connects that person with the invisible side of the good desired. Should that person weaken or change their desire, then that energy is disconnected and we don't receive what it is that we want. And then we walk around going, oh, prayer doesn't help. Why don't I not get what I want? We're not seeing that we're disconnecting ourselves. But if we remain constant in our desire, our ambition, then the good will come to us. That's what the law of attraction says, sooner or later. And then I talked about the law of thinking. So let's begin that one by quoting Proverbs, which says, as a man thinketh in his heart, so is he. That's really the foundation of our life. We need to get to a point to understand that we really do have control over our lives. We have control over the growth of our businesses that we have. The economy doesn't control our business. We think it does sometimes. We control our own self. We control our health. We control our finances. We control our relationships. We are the creator. That's what we're here to do and to be. And so when we can see this and really understand it, then we see that we are as a person thinketh in their heart. That's where we're talking about the heart of hearts, not the mind, but the heart of hearts and how it feels. And that's the key to it. Then I shared the law of sacrifice, which states basically that everything is unfolding in divine order. So the beginning of wisdom is not imposed by discipline, but the beginning of wisdom is the desire for discipline to help us out in connecting to these goals that we want. The love of discipline, the choice of discipline. As we learn in this work, discipline and sacrifice is the high road and leads to everything. That's a principle, as I said earlier, that we have a law that says we're going on our path toward a desired end. Now, sometimes people think the word sacrifice and discipline are totally misunderstood. But I've come to understand them as not losing something, but gaining something in your life. Because you're giving up something of the lower nature, sacrificing something that's not really working to you to go to something of a higher nature, which is a more connection to the Christ consciousness, to the laws of the universe and how they can help you. And finally, I talked about the law of obedience. It's easy to understand that if a person hasn't done a respectable amount of studying, you will never understand the laws. So that's why we talk about it here. Once you get an understanding, you have more respect for it and you see how it operates in your life. And you can make that choice all the time. Now, according to the understanding of divine law, I see these laws that I'm sharing, and I'll have more this year to give you, as divine love. They are God's uniform and orderly method. They're God's modus operandi. How life operates within us is these laws. So these talks that I gave you showed us that we live by these laws. We live by principle, which is another word for law. And the first principle I said is God. So we are told to create any kind of life we want. And God wants us to have all. And if we don't have it, why is that? Because we're not opening ourselves up to receive as much as we could. How much during the year did you use these laws, these principles to create the life you want and desire and deserve? Well, we're going to find out, as I did last Sunday. And remember, this is principle. How many of us have lived by the principles that we expressed last year? So I had you sometime in summertime, I think, write down a goal that you wanted for the year. So, have you worked any more on yes?
Yeah.
No. Yeah? Have you? In what way? You want to share?
No.
Okay. Well, let me find someone I thought I had that was here. Carol. Marion. Living in the holy instant always is what you shared. So how have you been doing with that?
Making progress, being the awareness is open more. It's a journey, and I'm not at the destination yet, but there's an awareness of the now.
How does that feel to you?
It feels great because it's a release
Of what?
of fear.
Good.
Yeah, it's a release of fear.
So what I hear you saying is that the holy instant is an opportunity to connect to the now moment of the Christ consciousness.
Yeah.
And to let go of all the fears and the other thoughts that I talked about there.
Right.
Does that make sense?
Right, yeah.
And you're practicing it more. That's a good thing. So keep up with it. That would be something for all of us. Okay, your turn. Adding value and appreciation to everyone I meet. Do you remember that? How's that going?
Well, actually, it feels good to be able to reach out to somebody else, because you cannot add value to someone else without adding value to yourself. So, yeah, I've been trying to do that, and awareness is the key.
Can you let go of the word trying? Because it's either you're doing it or you're not doing it. So are you doing it?
True. So, yes, I am doing it, and proceeding to do it on a more consistent basis.
And how's that feeling?
Feels good. Anytime you discipline yourself to do something that's out of the ordinary, or just like you were sharing a while ago, that's one of the principles that I study, is giving up the good for the great.
Yeah.
Because it's not a sacrifice, it's trading up.
Good. So you got some of the information from that law, and you've been using it. Okay, good. Good for you.
Those are irrefutable laws.
Yes, they are. And that's why we're talking about them. Jenny's not here. Cynthia's not here. Okay. What you wanted was more spiritual growth and oneness. How's that going?
Work in progress,
Okay. Have you been feeling it? Has there been changes or connection to that?
yes.
Can you talk about it? How's it felt?
Great. You know, you get the feeling when you're doing it. You get that feeling that for you.
Mm-hmm. That's a good feeling to have. And that's connection to the Christ consciousness too, a feeling of euphoria. That's a really strong feeling to me. Is it to you? Good. Okay. Bonnie, to be fully aware, enlightened, and free of ego. That's a good one.
Yeah, not there yet.
Okay.
Getting there, and becoming more aware of when ego is there, letting it go. Not taking
So as I talked about, awareness is the first thing in these laws that you move through. So how have you becoming aware of the ego being there?
just, and it's just becoming more recognizable when I think, oh, that was good. And give the credit to God instead of the person, your ego.
Okay.
Because when the ego, the mind takes over and just runs with it.
And can you feel the difference?
I feel, like Mary was saying, I'm in the now more.
Okay.
And I'm in the presence more, and I get spontaneous awareness of the presence more. I mean, it's just like when you were talking up there, I just felt this deep, deep peace. And part of that is getting rid of the ego. It's not letting the ego be there, not letting thoughts be there, and just being in emptiness and peace.
So what's important here is feeling, how we feel about it. Euphoria, that feeling in the moment, feeling in the instant now. All of that coming from here, not so much up here in our head. How's it going for you with what we talked about last week?
No,
That you can have all that you want.
I'm going to pack my bag.
Good. Get it
Ready to
packed?
go.
Okay, that would be a good thing. Neva, listen more clearly to Spirit's urgings. What is Spirit's urgings for you?
Okay.
try new things, like the violin, getting up in front of people. When I was growing up, I was told I was too bashful to do anything, and I was very bashful as a kid. And that kind of stayed with me for a long, long time. But I'm starting to get over it.
So two things come to mind. I remember when you first talked to me and said you wanted to start doing spiritual readings, and the reason you wanted to do that was because you're so afraid to express yourself. And yet, how does she do on spiritual readings? So this thought that you have from childhood is still around. It's time to really let it go. It's not you anymore. You're expressing yourself very well, and there's going to be other things that you get to express yourself with. You've joined the board. You're doing great then. Now you did some music. There's still going to be, we'll see what happens this year, Neva. Okay, that's all I have of people that are here. Is there anybody else that wanted to share about what they wrote down that I didn't have, or how things have been going for them this year with the laws? Yeah, you.
Well,
Yeah.
I'll give maybe a little stories into where I was. For a while, I was squatting out down a hill. Had no job. Was just kind of figuring out what to do with my life. It was a nice little period to take some time to figure it out, and so I just kind of nomad around for a little bit. And what I was really looking for was a deeper connection to life. And I would say that I found it with Kaylee and with Jackson. There's definitely a lot more in my life to look forward to waking up every day. There's a lot to do, plenty of things to do. I'm working with Steve
Welcome to
here.
parenting.
It's boring now.
Yeah, it's definitely not boring. I'm working with Steve here, and that's been going good for me. He's taught me a lot in the trade and everything of HVAC and refrigeration, and that's something that I appreciate from starting from where I was at, not having very much, living in a tent, riding my bike around. Now I have a son, a girlfriend, and a car, and right now a place to stay. So I would say that my life has definitely progressed.
And you have a family here.
Yeah, absolutely. And fellowship with Spirit has been very much helped me.
So I would say that you've kind of lived the law of sacrifice, that you've sacrificed the lower stuff that was going on to step into something higher for yourself. Would that make sense?
Yeah.
Good for you. And there's more to come.
I would say there's plenty more to be auspicious.
Good. Kate, I didn't have paper for you. Do you remember what you wrote, or is there anything you want to
I
say?
remember what I wrote, but the way I'm feeling lately, to be quite honest, I feel like it's just progress. And like Marion, staying in the present moment is one of my major goals.
Good.
I'm working on staying.
That's a good goal. So the theme that we had for this year, if you remember, was living new thought through demonstration. So it was all about what we've been talking about, taking these laws, taking the talks that God's been sharing with you through me, and making them live in your life, and find out the changes that can happen, and accepting more of who you are and what you deserve to have in your lives, all of you. So let's look at that this coming year. We'll start off with some of that starting next Sunday, and we'll go into some more of the laws later on, and then just another theme will come to me this year that'll build on that. But let's look at how we're going to really create fabulous, wondrous lives through these principles that we learn here at Fellowship. That'd be good?
One thing to add to that, Course in Miracles, the study of Course in Miracles has really come alive for me in the last few months, and that I think one of the major truths of Course in Miracles is forgiveness. And so I'm really getting a lot out of that teaching.
Good. It's a good teaching, and it's good that we have it here.
Yes, it is.
Anybody else got anything to say?
George,
Yes.
just that it's always now.
Yes, it is.
Now, yeah.
I have paper that I got at home from a workshop I did. I've had it in others where they show a clock and all it says is now, 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 now. Okay, let's close our eyes for meditation.